Hey, it's David and welcome back to the shed. Today we're going to do what is probably one of the most common mods that anybody ever does to their bike, because after all, who doesn't want to make it sound better? Now, as you may know, on the bike I currently have a stock can, but it's been stubbied. It's had the baffle removed and it's shorter, so it's louder than it was, which is great. It's what I need, and it's a very cheap solution if you haven't got the funds to actually go out and buy an expensive end can. But the problem with stubbing exhaust is getting the sound right. It's very easy to make a bike louder. It's very hard to make it sound good, and that's a common problem, especially if you've got something like a 125, is that you hear them, they're very loud, but they just sound horrible. If sounding loud is your primary purpose, that's okay, and given that I live on the edge of a city and I'm always in heavy traffic, filtering through between cars and so forth, loud is what I need. So all of my bikes actually are loud. There's a time and a place for loud, and out in the countryside there's no place for loud at all. It's just antisocial for no purpose. But in my case, I do want loud, but I'd also like to have nice loud. So what I'm going to do today is I'm taking my end can off and I'm putting on an Akrapovic slip-on system that I've bought. It's used. I don't know what it's like. It's had the baffle removed, so I don't have the baffle. So it is what it is. So let's get on. So this is my existing system. As you can see, it's a stock end can, but you'll notice it's been shortened. The stock end can normally ends about here. So this has had the rivets removed, this pulled out, it's had the baffle removed. You can't really see it probably in there. It's had the baffle removed, it's had the insulation shortened, it's then been put back on, re-riveted, which is great. But as I said, and it's loud, but I wonder if I can make it sound better with a different end can. Now, my tools I'm going to use today, because some people do ask, should be fairly simple. I'm just looking at a 12 and a 13mm spanner, it's an M6 I think, Allen hex head, some black silicone sealant, your choice of thread loosening, lubricant, whatever, and a cloth, because that's going to be messy. And that should be all the tools we need. I forgot one tool. To get the spring clips on, we are going to need either something like a pair of pliers, a proper hook to pull them on. I don't know where I've put mine, so I'm going to try it with a little bit of bent wire. These are only tiny little springs, so it's not really a problem. Some of them can be really tough, but these ones, they're just fine. What I'm putting on is this. Now, I've spent an hour or two cleaning it up because it was a bit grubby, because it comes straight off of another bike. So it's the Akrapovic system, it's the slip-on, and this one has come from KTM. So it's as I say, you can see it's a used system. It's got some scars and stuff, and it's had the baffle removed, so it's going to be as loud as these are. So I'm just curious to see what it sounds like. So we've got a nice carbon fibre bracket, we've got springs because these are spring mounts, and we've got this nice, I think it's titanium, piece of tube. It could be stainless steel. I think actually it's probably stainless steel from the weight. It's hard to say. Either way, so we've got that. So, stock system. So you've got the secondary silencer here under the bike. You've got a clamp and you've got a bolt. Now, what I would recommend is that in here there's a gasket. I would recommend that you buy a gasket from KTM before you do this, just in case this one gets messed up. I'm not doing that because I've got another exhaust mod to make to this bike, which I can't do just yet, but when I do that, that's when I'll probably change the gaskets. So we've got a clamp here, we have a clamp here, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Now this is going to be really unscientific, and my experience of doing this is that it doesn't work very well. Sound in real life is very different to the sound you've heard over a computer, because there's auto leveling software and stuff. It's really hard to say. But what does this sound like with this stubborn exhaust? Not bad sound, but it's a little bit on the dull, thuddy sort of end, which is typically what you get taking a baffle out and so forth. Of course, I've got the baffle out, the Akrapovic as well, but we'll see. When taking an exhaust apart, you've got to bear in mind this stuff gets really hot. This gets really hot, and that causes corrosion and it bakes on any dirt and stuff. So it's always a good idea, and I suggest you do this in advance, not like now when I'm taking it apart. A week or so ahead of time, actually get in there, get some lubricant in there. This, by the way, is the world's longest bolt, and I'd also suggest, given that we're right by the back wheel here and this gets covered in rubbish, that you do get in there and you give that thread a bit of a clean, because any dirt that's in here, when we unbolt this, you're going to drag back through there, which is not going to do this captive nut any good, and it's just going to make our life harder than it needs to be. Yeah, always spillage. And we want to do the same up here. So let's start just by cracking these off. This is the 13, this is the 12. I don't imagine I actually need this just yet. And there we go, that was loose. It's nice. Keep track of everything that's in here. You've got some rubber gaskets here, we've got some chrome looking washers. I'm just going to leave that done up for a second so it holds the weight. And the same here. You can use ratchets obviously. There we go. But I'm just showing you with the simplest tools because that is all you need. Right, so we've got a spacer in here, and we've got a washer on there. So keep those in order. So this clamp, as you can see, it's got a bit of a hook in here. Now, how's this going to come apart? Looks like it needs to turn sideways, so let's just pull it apart and lift it off. And that comes there and off, and that must be our gasket just here. So let's give this a clean up while we're here. So I'm not changing anything with the silencer, so that means we can now take this bolt out. And drop this silencer out. So we've got these washers fixed in here. this bolt here is a little bit corroded, so I'm just going to clean it up a bit. And we can take our new exhaust. Now we need to have the hanger. If you look here, this is offset, so depending which way you have it is which way it'll turn. Now I'm pretty sure it'll go that way. And that looks right. Right, before I put this bolt back in, I'm going to put some grease on it so that it doesn't corrode so easily, and because it does tend to get hot, I'm going to use a copper grease. So whatever you use, I know in the US they like their silver coloured grease, whatever it is. In the UK we seem to go with the copper, most common. So that'll be there. So now I can take this. Well, in fact, I'm not going to put this on yet. Instead, I'm going to fit this, and then we can just slip the end can onto this. So I'm going to put some sealant on this gasket because I'm reusing it. If you're putting a new one in, you probably don't need to do this. Just down the bottom here, it looks like it's breaking up, and again that's a good reason for replacing it. So now we can reassemble. Now I've also put some more grease on here. Remember, this goes into the clamp as a spacer. This is where you need 3 hands. Get everything lined up. And use the bolt to help you reassemble it. Don't want to tighten it up just yet because we need to get the silencer on, but we want it roughly snugly in the right place. Now I'm going to put some more sealant on the pipe here. It'll help the halves slide together and also make sure that the joint is airtight. I don't think this was assembled with any sealant before, so we might find you don't need it with this pipe. It's one of the problems with buying second hand is you don't get the original instructions, and whilst I could probably go on their website and find them, again, when you're doing this sort of stuff, it just helps to keep your hands clean as you're working. Otherwise things like that sealant will just get all over your tools, all over the slip-on. So there we go, nice and easy. In fact, it looks like it doesn't go all the way down. So now we've got the system in place, but we've still got plenty of flex and wobble. What we don't want to do is tighten stuff up and then force it into place. Just allow it to find its own space, its own time. And now we can apply the springs. This is where you need to have something that's going to allow you to stretch this spring out. Slip it into place. So you can do it with pliers or something like that. And there are special tools, but with springs as weak as these ones, you don't really need it. Now I'm getting gasket sealer everywhere, so I'll clean that up in a minute. First things first, let's tighten these down. Don't over tighten it. Again, not over tight. You can always come back and check it afterwards. So that is a much longer end can than what I had before. I did actually quite like the stubby look, but now it's in place, what I'll do is just go around and clean up any of the gasket sealant there, and we're ready. So the question is, what does it sound like? Let's find out, shall we? It's fair to say it's louder, and this bike probably be quite happy with a baffle in it, but without the baffle it sounds great. The tone is a little deeper, it's not such a dull note, but really the test will be in riding. What I do want to do is just go around and check the joints, get these properly cleaned up from the sealant, because that will just attract dirt. Right, there we go. That's a really simple thing to do, isn't it? 2 bolts, a little bit of gasket sealer, a little bit of cleaning up, and that's it. It's all there is to it. Anybody can do it. Now, KTM reckon this is a safe modification, doesn't require any changes to the fueling, so stock fueling map on this bike doesn't change anything. If you want to do more mods like cat elimination, airbox modifications, that sort of stuff to get more power out the bike, then fine, you are going to need to get a proper piggyback for the bike. That's at least for the 390. I'm assuming it's true also for the 125 because they're pretty similar. But easy, great mod. So I highly recommend it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed or found this content useful, and it'll keep you in the loop for the further mods I will be making to this bike, although it will remain generally stock. So thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you again next time.